Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Lucid, and I am joined once again by Demosthenes.
Yeah, folks, excited to talk with you all about Dominion.
Yeah, so hopefully you saw last episode where we did I won't call it a national overview exactly, but just both of us kind of talking, chit-chatting, rambling a bit about Cold Rhaga. And now we're going to get to see expansion. So we're going to do this really quick. Um, and by that I mean we're probably going to we're going to watch the first few battles, but after that we're just going to kind of like we're not going to watch all the battles in expansion, but we'll try to pull up each turn. We can talk about, where the borders end up being, who the neighbors are, etc. Um First though, we probably should go through who's in the game. We've got a Lemuria, which is always very spooky. We've got Ulm, we've got Late Age Micklin, we've got Agartha, a great Sage expander. That's awesome. I think this is Ball and Stalin, right?
It is indeed,
Yeah,
and sadly, the commander is not a great sage.
right. It's a this is a shout out uh to our new castings game where there were multiple great Sage expanders. Uh
Fascinating.
okay. Then we've got Late Age Pangaea, which is a very cool nation. We've got Utgard, which is super strong. We've got Bogarus, which has a special place in my heart, led by Catherine the Great, so very thematic. We've got Patala. We've got Gath. We have us, Rhaga, with Extreme Weather. I like the name. Um, we have Mr. Hanky, the god of Zabalba. And Late Age Zabalba is very cool. And we have Atlantis. So what I don't see here is we don't have a Kalum, and we don't have a Vedheim, right? Or did I miss? Okay.
Correct.
So the only real cold power here is Atlantis. So that's a blessing.
Yeah. The other thing is that we do the map was posted in advance, so we know who our neighbors are.
Right. So who
So
are
we'll
your
have
neighbors?
Pangea. Yeah, we'll have Pangea to our north, um, and we'll have Bogarus to our east, Gartha to our south, and Gath to our west. Um, and I actually finished my pretender design before the map was posted, so I didn't specialize at all for that setting. Um, But, I guess my main thoughts on that is that I would like to have peace with Agartha early because they don't have astral mages. Um, and I think that the sort of Arya Seraphs will be great against them. So they're a great mid game war target. But the others are all potentially nations I would rush. However, Gath has fire resistance on all their stuff, so the sulfur phase haze strategy is not really viable against them. So basically, I went into it, at this point thinking that I'm going to rush Bogarus or Pangea if I get the opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Gath, I don't think. Gath, depending on their bless, can be very scary early. And they're also not going to get trampled well. Just a lot of the kind of little tricks that you have with this nation aren't going to work terribly well early against Gath. Like the Sulfur Haze won't work. The archers won't work. The elephants won't work. Like there's a lot of things that aren't going to work very well.
Heavy cavalry spam will be all right, but yeah, it's that's
Right.
that's the nation I at least want to fight here.
Right. Um,
I think the final thing
yeah.
about the map to notice, I've got lizards to my north, which is super exciting because we were just discussing how I want nature access and I want lots of astral mages so that my magic duel vulnerability will be less
Right.
of a problem. Second, if you look around, it's basically all rough terrain, forests, mountains, swamps. I think within 2 provinces of my capital, there's 1 farmland to the north and 3 plains, and everything else is low income stuff.
Right.
So we expect to be a little poor in this game, and it actually did affect I expanded compared to testing in small ways that will probably not be worth going into. But I was a little
Yeah.
gold limited.
Yeah. You've got some nice
But
ones that are like, oh, this is a shit one. There's a few things
exactly,
I
exactly.
like. I actually might be good if they get built into Mapnuke. Getting rid of these, like if it's a
The
farmland, just
farmlands,
get rid
yeah.
of the mountain. It's one of the things I do if I'm like really trying to like make a nice map. Is I try to like go through and like I'll get rid of this, like the mountain that's here, and
Mm-mm.
just turn this into a mountain pass rather than be like have this a mountain. But But yeah, okay, cool. So let's take a look at the scripting in this expanding party, and we're going to be basically doing elephant expansion here, right? So you can talk us through this once, and then we'll basically see it play out on repeat after this, right?
Exactly. So one key note is that elephants have, risk of routing, especially if you have, a squad smaller than 5. So we're going to make extensive use of our starting army infantry, which actually one of the cool things about this nation is that your starting army infantry all have morale 12. So they're actually really unlikely for that squad with 4 of those infantry plus the elephants
Right.
to rout. I think it's 13 because they're in the home province or something. But anyway, they're relatively good morale.
Yeah.
And and then at the center, you've got sort of guys in the center, a little bit ahead of where the elephants are. So, and I did bring my prophet. You can see I'm actually casting Tournament of Courage on the first few turns, again, trying to reduce the risk that my elephant routes, because he's actually most of the killing power of this entire army.
Right.
And, then, typical spamming evocations. One thing I will be doing is trying to not bless my prophet in my expansion battles in case a scout spots it, because sort of, I'm not going to be expanding with sacreds. I'd like to sort of conceal my bless to the extent I can.
Right. Well, you can't do that with your prophet because they start off blessed.
Can't do it with the prophet death bar.
Yeah.
But he will not actually be expanding the whole time. He'll be preaching. So.
Yeah. So so this is going to be interesting. I looking at this though, it looks like your elephant's going to get way ahead though, because the elephants have a combat speed of 16, and these guys have a combat speed of 8. So the first turn in which they move, they'll have already caught up, and then the second turn they get ahead. So what I'm guessing is going to happen with this, so your elephant's going to walk in first, fight for like a turn, and then these guys are going to fill in behind him. But we'll see.
I think it's roughly like that. I think it's a little bit more simultaneous than that, just because the enemy militia are fast enough that they almost make contact in time.
Okay,
Let's
let's take a look.
The other thing I can note is that, with these scales, one barely has too little resources to make 2 elephants on the first turn. So one reason you might go order 3 on Cold Rhaga is that you could get 2 elephants on the first turn.
Oh yeah, that could make a big difference.
Enough that the army won't need to be reinforced. But
no, they make contact right at the same time. So there you go.
It's pretty beautiful. Yeah.
How does that happen? Let's look at this again, because I feel like my math is it.
Key thing is that the enemy does most of the closing for us.
Right.
So they started on the top. That might be significant. But I think it's mostly just that, if you look at it like
I guess they do close after one round. So they, I was thinking it'd be like a round and a half or something to close.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, I did 2 or 3 expansion tests with this nation, so I sort of figured out what the spacing is. But it's a very, very classic elephant expansion. You can look at the hit points on that elephant to see how much damage he actually took.
Yeah,
one point there, the whole army.
So yeah, you can see a lot of repels happening here too. Yeah, repels, protection, mist, a little bit of everything. Repel.
The other thing that's sort of worth noting is they only got about 10 or 15 attacks on the elephant in the whole fight, and part of that is because the elephant keeps moving by trampling, and so you may not get a turn while they're still next to him. But partially it's just they die so fast. That's Rhaga elephant expansion.
Okay, so now you're reinforcing the party.
Exactly. So my sort of calculation is that one needs 2 elephants with this many chaff to be really reliable against almost anything. But I'm ending up doing 3, and that'll give me opportunities with bumps, or if I get unlucky to lose one or whatnot. And so the next party will be that. And if you look,
Yeah, this should be
You're getting a commander here too.
Yeah. So the one way that I lost in expansion with these elephants is my commander getting sniped by some militia who run past or whatever, and having one of these 20 protection heavy cavalry. As the commander eliminates that risk, and they're you'll definitely be happy to have them later. So
right, yeah, you're gonna need some good leaders anyhow. So
exactly, and they also give another morale bonus to the elephants, which is again sort of just reducing risk on the expansion.
Okay, keep going forward. And sorry if you guys are hearing construction noise in the background.
I can't do anything about that.
I can't hear anything, so I think you're actually fine. It's up to turn 4, I think.
All right, and so this is now going to be overkill because we've got 3 elephants here.
I mean, this won't even be a contest. One thing I will mention though is that heavy infantry are actually the easiest type for the elephants to kill because of their
the low defense.
Is significant. No low defense.
Yeah.
The sand field defense is really low. Light infantry is the only thing that you need to be really careful about because they actually have a little bit higher base defense because of the lighter armor, and times they'll be able to kill an elephant with us around.
So you're making it down to this farm province, but this is a kind of shitty farm province. Dude, this is a decent income province. So you got 9,000 here. What is this one? 8,000. Yeah, okay.
I think that farm is going to be 10 or 12 population. It's going to be one of my best provinces, but yeah, it's not a.
And it's yellow, so people are always like, "Oh my god, a yellow province! It's a farm. We must contest it," even though it's like kind of just normal.
Yeah. But I guess the general strategy is that I'm going to be sending out elephant parties in sort of spokes every turn. So I'm making one more party in the capital with elephants that are going to go west. And then, unfortunately, the lizards are a very bad target for elephants. So after that, I'm going to switch what I'm making to be a pile of archers, and we'll see how that.
What's the thought process between doing hold and attack when you're fighting archers here? I would think you'd still want them at the back so you have maximum separation. But I would just do attack rather than hold and attack.
The thinking is that the archers can't hurt us. Like, none of our units are vulnerable to archers.
Okay.
They're irrelevant, and we might as well split the militia from the heavy infantry.
Okay. Fair. And then in the cap, we're getting 3 more elephants, which would be another expansion party. So that's pretty sick. It's one expansion party a turn.
Yeah, and if we didn't have lizards above us, we'd do a 4th elephant party, but we're actually only going to do 3. Because they'll just be too slow to get to the edges.
Right.
For it to matter. The other thing is, that the mage moving. I moved the mage back to the capital with I think it's now.
One of the guys that came out to wait. Which guy did you move back? These guys.
Yeah, one of the mage who brought the elephants last turn moved back to the capital with some chaps. So when you see what army is moving out from the capital, you'll see that it's got
right.
So I don't think we even need to. Well, you can watch the one with just 2 chap. I think it's a little different, but all of the expansions that we're going to do are going to work roughly like this. You can see it's like turn 4 and the enemy's already run, and we were on hold and attack, so we only fought them for 2 turns. And
elephants kill things really fast. Oh my god, and you're combining forces here? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so this has a bit of a diplomacy discussion. So I met Agartha to the south and agreed on a border where I get 2 provinces and they get 1. As I mentioned, I don't want to fight them early because I think I'm a good matchup against them later. And I want to be friends with them, and they have hot skills. So I would really like to have them be my friendly neighbor who helps me, I can build a fort on their border and get some skills. But I'm taking the 1 province we agreed to the east, and then, that party will be heading back.
Right.
And then with Gap, we had a bit of a discussion because the province that they've already expanded to, I actually really want for logistics reasons. So the province just south of it, was my original plan had been, that I'd try to sweep through and do that, get sort of a good border with gas. But they've actually already done both of those forests and the one that they're in with their starting army. So they happen to choose towards me for their first army.
Right.
And I ended up negotiating a deal with them where I get 2 of the 3 provinces, but I pay them all the income from the one that they're currently in, which is like a 50 gold province for the next 6 turns. And we signed an. So I actually signed naps with both of those parties, nations on turn 5, with a favorable border for me in both cases.
Okay. That's interesting. I think for Gath, I would probably have negotiated a bit harder with him because I think it is. I mean, maybe if he thought you were Zayedans, he'd be a little frightened because I think Zayedans match up well against his sacreds. Like they match up okay.
Yeah,
but
I think this is him not knowing that I was called Rhaga yet. Additionally, actually, I think if we bump at that province to the south, I think that 2 gibbers with a starting army, there's a risk that he loses, because it's just, potentially if the elephants hit the non-gibber troops early, they rout them. Or just 3, if the gibbers are split up a bit and one of them gets trampled by 3 guys for a few turns, it's not an automatic victory for him.
Right.
Um, but and also,
I do
other
think
thing
it
that I
is
think was
favored for
important.
him, but I
Yeah,
agree. It's not
I'm
an
not sure.
automatic victory, but yeah. Okay.
And the other thing is that I think was important for both of us is if you look at the quality of the land between our nations, it's all like pretty rough terrain. And if you scroll west a bit, Gath has some really rich lands to their west. There's, a bunch of fresh water, a bunch of farmlands and stuff. So like, if they want to be thinking about what neighbor to be fighting, they would much rather be getting the land near Atlantis that's really rich, rather than scuffling with me over that. And I thought probably was important their analysis of what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
But
they're
yeah,
also, they look like
that's,
they're at the receiving end of the Atlantis Lake system too, which like Atlantis is normally wanting to like sail into whoever's on the other side of their lakes.
yeah.
So, but
Atlantis will be busy early because it's known that Lemuria is one of their 2 neighbors. But yeah, it's definitely which is an opportunity for Gath to potentially get the borderlands with them.
right. We'll go into turn
turn-
6.
It might have been turn 6. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, that was turn 5. Yeah, I think you're good. Yeah, and there's an Omniscience player who I've been sending messages to.
Oh, cool.
And this one, you can do the
Who's
watch.
playing? Who's casting this or doing Omniscience?
It's Meep. He's not casting it. He's just learning about Dominion. But I'm actually playing an Omniscience game right now just to get a feel for how other people play, and it's been super interesting. So
Oh, cool.
I would recommend it if you see a game starting that sounds cool. Don't have time to play it. You can spend like 10 minutes on a turn and get to see all the cool stuff happening.
Yeah, but if you do it, make sure you actually like do your turn. It's annoying having somebody who's like, "Oh, I'll play Omniscience," and then they never do their turn.
You gotta end your turn immediately.
Yeah.
This is Pangaea trying to use the Burlak City Guards to take that juicy farmland, freshwater farmland that is to our north.
Right.
And yeah, it doesn't work. Militia cannot beat even that.
Yeah, it's kind of pathetic, but sadly, the state of affairs with militia.
I think we can start just doing the battle reports for these battles. They all go exactly like
People want to see the battles, but I think you're right. I think we've now beaten. I think everybody's starting to get the sense this is like we're beating a dead horse now.
Yeah.
So expansion is actually kind of trivial. Like I think it's good. I have a video you can watch on. I think I call it like elephant whispering or something, which is just on like how to do elephant expansion. And any nation that has elephants, you should be able to expand pretty well. Now, Rhaga and Late Age Archocephaly have the best elephants in the game. So, it's like actually trivial for these nations to expand with elephants. But with other nations, you can still expand very, very well with elephants.
Yeah, and so you can see that the reason that we combined those 2 parties was just, because of my deal with Gath, I didn't need to do anything else. So I actually took province. They'd agreed to me with a maid who's then going to site cert, and then we'll he's a long dead horseman to the southeast, so he's actually going to join. So he's then going to join the army that's coming back from the Agartha border.
God, look at that mobility! Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. It's been so long since I've played birds. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Ridiculous. The other details
it's 2 moves through friendly and hitting an enemy province. God, that is so sick.
Exactly. And then
and he's old too.
Actually,
so if we took on aging, he would be like even faster.
A little faster. And the other thing that is not so bad is that if you want to bring bodyguards, your flying troops are map move 20, so you can actually have those guys fly. The movement that an old mage can do with some bodyguards.
Wait, so explain to me. I would have split this because this is trivial. So I would have sent some guys here, but I would have sent something to help the archers here because I'm a little worried. Do 35 guys kill 40 lizards? I don't know. I mean, I know lizards are vulnerable to archers, but that looks freaking dicey.
Where the fact that those guys have 13 precision, you really see the difference between normal archers and these Kaelin archers.
Okay.
The reason I didn't want to send the elephants there is because there's going to be a lizard shaman in that province, and he's going to curse every single one of them, and that will dramatically reduce the value of the elephant.
Even if you didn't want to bring the elephants, you could just bring some of the chaff.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Okay, we'll see. No, I have never played with like Caleb archers, and yeah, I mean lizards do not have like these are naked, right? So it's not like elite warriors. They actually have really bad protection and 0 shields, so they are like super vulnerable to archer fire. But let's
I
take a
will say
look.
that I did screw up the scripting, and my archers are further forward than they should be, but it really doesn't matter. The other thing is that I wanted that force to be able to split up and take 2 heavy cavalry provinces if Pangaea hadn't beaten me. I think that was the right. Is that the right turn?
You have the wrong one saved in here, so that's okay.
Okay, well,
We'll
you
run
watch
with
the
it.
second lizard province. It'll give you the flavor.
Oh, these lizards are not very fast. Oh, combat speed 11. They look like they're going a little slower than. I mean, they've been taking up. I mean, look at that. Oh my god. Now that wasn't as many. That was only like 20 lizards. Right. The other one was 40. So I could have seen the other one closing.
Yeah, the other one was about 35, and they did close and kill 3. So you'll see that I think I started with 35, and there's only 30 or 32 in that party. So I lost 3. But if I'd had them at the back, I wouldn't have lost anything.
This is kind of cool to watch because this is our first heavy cav we've seen with the these dudes.
So here, what we've done is we've taken our 2 afflicted starting army troops, and they're going to try and catch some lances. Because Pangaea softened this province, it's only 4 heavy cavalry, so it almost doesn't matter. You know
Oh god, they instantly routed.
The reason I didn't want the elephant to take the lances is mainly I was just worried about getting afflictions. Like I don't think that they could kill one. Sort of regardless, but yeah.
So expansion's looking pretty close to done. Have you negotiated this with Pangaea?
Nope. I think by this point I had decided rushing Pangaea as my first war, so I was planning to just take that for myself, and then get my elephant parties ready and rush them. And the reason is that if you scroll a little bit north, I think I saw them do another expansion party somewhere, or anyway, that there was particularly their expansion seems to be really rough. Maybe it was next turn when I made this. You'll see next turn what their expansion looks like, and it's only turn 8, but
let's see what you put in the turn 8 folder. If it's also turn 8. Yeah, it's also turn 8. Okay. I do that same thing all the time.
I was writing a script to automatically save the turns, and it had some bugs around the turn 7 range. So.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
So this is again that
Thunder
Tower fight searching the next province side taken with it.
Oh, here you lose some archers. It looks like from the archer fire of the enemies.
So this was I wanted my archers,
and you went and did sparse already too, which is going to help.
Yeah. They've only got 6 protection. I think I should have scripted them on fire archers, and that would have they might have routed the enemy archers first. But anyway, so that was definitely I think my biggest casualties in the expansion. Which it's annoying, but it's not really material. But I think I wanted them here for some force consolidation reason. I think I remember what it was. I think the archers had a non-flying commander, and I think I wanted to. Yeah, I met them with a flying commander. So the idea is that I could then use that flying commander to move them to fight on the Bogarus border this coming turn.
We see them kill these Zots.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at.
They almost lost
see what their bless is.
A little bit risky, like.
Yeah, no, this is definitely risky. Taking. I mean, I'd
have just not bought the up arc.
Yeah, you don't need them here. I mean, the only thing is sometimes there's a skelly spammer or 2 back here, which they actually have. I mean, honestly, with this many cav, you're fine, but.
And they're fine anyway. I think one of the up arcs took a hit. But,
oh, he didn't bless himself. Huh. They're off script too, huh? I was hoping we got to see the bliss.
And I think, so.
Okay.
At this point, I actually tested orders where I could hit both of those 2 provinces with a force that would win a bump. It's a little bit challenging because if you saw, they have Word of Power as their smite, which is the astral one that is extremely long range and paralyzes.
Right, so that will fuck your elephants up pretty fierce.
Completely,
yeah.
They'll stand there. It will mean that their eparchs will just shoot the elephants probably all battle. But
right, but if you're relying on the elephants to kill, those Malia Drazina will fuck up your troops.
Exactly. But, if you look at my capital, I think I had made a squad of the flyer infantry, so I could hold an attack rear to one of them, and archers and some mages doing lightning bolt or sulfur haze the other was sort of my option. But I ended up negotiating with Bugaroos that I'll get the province I'm attacking, and he'll get the other one, because I had decided I was going to fight Pangaea, and I just wanted to have reasonable borders with everybody that's not too aggressive. So,
well, reasonable borders. It looks like you have favorable borders with all your neighbors.
Yeah, but like favorable, but not like if I take all 3 provinces in a border with somebody, it might be much more tempted than somebody else to backstab me when I go to war with Pangaea early. And so, it's sort of part of my
it's fair. It's not unfair, but I'm just saying, like, your expansion went really well. Like, you have favorable borders with all your neighbors.
What is this, turn 8 or 9? Maybe
9.
Yeah, turn 9. So I'm effectively done with expansion.
Right.
At this point.
And this is like a huge difference, because this video will go up probably a good time after we record this, so that it's a long time from your current turn. But it will probably go up some ways into the new casting series, which is going up, which is also in the late age. And I think in that, like, expansion didn't really stop until like turn 16. But you can see, like, people who played the game a lot, like, expansion shuts down reasonably early. And so it's like, you're not going to come away with 20 provinces, but you're going to have, like, you probably needed to have, like, this expansion was probably like 27, 28 if you're doing it in single player tests.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you need to have, like, really good expansion like this, where you shore up all your borders this early.
So you can look at, so one of the things I did, basically when I was short on gold to make mages in my capital, is I made a couple of flying scouts. And so that's why I have the intelligence for where Pangaea is. And you can see that they still haven't taken 2 of their cap circle.
Oh, God.
I know that they've
blood in the water.
Died. I think I also saw them lose another, like a party of 30 satyrs or something like that. So that's sort of why I'm thinking.
Who's playing Pangaea again? I forget.
He's a relatively new player. I think he is in the new casting game.
Is it Monkey?
Yeah, Monkey.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, expansion with Pangaea, I haven't ever actually played them. I doubt it's entirely trivial, but they do have really good troops too. So
I think that if you have good enough scales and you spam the Grove Guard, I think you can have a similar trample-based experience to what we're having here. Maybe starting a bit slower, because you need, you might need more of your cap circle to get the resources for it. But with 19 protection plus a berserk, pumping that up to like 21 or 22, that they can trample over things and mostly not die.
Yeah, they're pretty strong. And the Centaur Cataphracts are pretty top end too. Like, yeah. But the hop, I don't think you use I wouldn't really want to use I don't think any of the satyrs for expansion. Like, even these guys, I don't think I would want to use them unless I, for some reason, took a really strong bless, which I don't think these guys warrant. So.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, they
only fighter 20 resources. But I don't know. They don't have a lot of hit points. I don't know. They're okay. I could see using it, but I just prefer these big beefy dudes.
Yeah. I will say that I've done some testing of my troops fighting Sage Pangaea troops. And, gold for gold, the Satyr Hoplites massacre my guys, the Satyr Snipers massacre my guys. Like, even heavy cavalry, if I charge in straight at the Satyr Snipers, they're armored enough that they don't die immediately. And then there's a bunch of guys in the second rank shooting point-blank crossbows at you.
Right. It hurts.
It's great. It's great troops. That's one of the reasons I wanted to rush them in this situation, is that they're resource and recruitment point limited, whereas I'm effectively gold limited right now.
Right.
So, basically what I'm
like a scales nation that's like resource limited and doesn't have their cap circle cleared early is in a really rough spot. Like, no second fort, no cap circle cleared. Like, you're just able to produce such a limited amount of military. And that's like one of the things, like, if people that watch my Bugaroos playthrough, like, we expanded scales, but we expanded really well. And so we were pretty strong early. But if you play a scales nation and you don't expand well, like, you're just in such rough shape for your first war. And that's really what it's looking like is the case with Pangaea. And I think it's really good that you've picked that. I mean, it's like one of the things, like, good players like smell blood in the water. And it's like, it's a hard thing if you're like, trying to do a guide on, like, I've done tips and tricks guides for dominions and stuff. And it's like, have a good killer instinct, like, know when somebody's weak and when to kill them. It's like one thing to say that. It's another thing to, like, know it, and you've, I think, clearly identified here what's going on.
And I'll note that I basically only got my first scout province like a turn or two ago. I think that northern farmland is the only place I can make scouts right now.
Right.
So spending some of my capital commander points to make those 2 flying scouts, you can see I know that Bogarus's expansion looks pretty fine, and that Pangaea's doesn't. Just from the 2 of them
Right.
getting out there. So, and in some sense, making peace with the first guys you meet statistically,
Right.
Gath and Agartha statistically is likely to go on turn 10.
Yeah, it's statistically going to mean you're making peace with stronger players, right? Because you met them
With whoever
first.
expanded best, I mean, sometimes you happen to be they expand terribly.
Oh, this is kind of cool. So he's using
they're
Dryad
fine.
hoplites with way too many of them. What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I do know, which is that I think what happened is that he sent his initial 2 parties to the west, because he actually has a lot of the land to the west of his capital, and
Okay.
logistics issues meant it took a long time to get them back.
So this is interesting, all combined with high defense. So these guys are going to be pretty hard to hit. The problem is they're not doing anything. Like, okay, they're difficult to kill, but then what?
Then you've got something else in your army that does the killing, probably.
I guess.
I think if you get a line of these guys as blockers behind, with some Spader snipers behind, that's a pretty solid.
I mean, they don't have great. These guys do not want to be taking friendly fire from crossbows, though.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
they don't have
I'm not
these
sure about
these
that,
hoplines. Hoplines are not very high parry, which is what affects what percent of the arrows you block with them. And then these are pretty low protection, so they are not, in my opinion, especially in late age, they are very bad arrow chaff. And that's the other thing. In late age, you have to, not only are you worried about friendly fire, so okay, where's the killing power in Pangaea side coming from? Okay, maybe it's coming from crossbows. You have enemy massing crossbows, and they're not going to give a shit that you have 20 defense. I mean, I think these guys are actually weak enough. They're going to be vulnerable to flaming arrow spam too. Flaming arrow will tear these guys apart.
The one thing I'll mention, and I still don't know the answer to it, is that if you look at the skills that we'll eventually see on their capital, they have enough design points to have an incarnate bless that's dormant. And so they may turn out to have a Titan. They may turn out to have something like death weapons, or I think they can't quite afford a regeneration, but they could have something pretty good that's hidden. The other little thing that I'll talk about at this stage, you can see I'm doing attack orders to all 3 of the border provinces.
Oh, so you really are rushing them.
I'm rushing them, and I made a bunch of troops in my capital of the flyers in order to be able to
have a bigger alpha strike. Right, because if you made elephants or something, it would take a while for them to get here.
And then in the swamp, there's about 20 heavy cavalry that are sort of on their way to the front. So my plan is to not try to, and that's that expansion party heading back. So that's all the heavy cavalry I've made. I was, actually would have hoped to have made more, but I ended up doing sort of more birds. And the goal is just to get enough to the front to sort of, swinging the gold advantage, basically.
So do you have naps really with the other player? I know you mentioned you have one with Gath and one with Agartha. Do you also have one with the Bogarus?
Naps with all 3.
Okay.
And I'll mention that if Pangaea had not been in rough shape, I'd already pinged, I think, 2 or 3 of the thrones on my border, and I think that I could probably take all 4 of them, any one of the 4 of them on turn 12, with about 25 heavy cavalry in the archers. Because a lot of the time, I think the one in the southwest has a guy who summons big, he's like a fire 4 who's going to make 5 big fire elementals, but my heavy cavalry don't care, and the archers will eventually kill them.
He's going to make water elementals too. They're going to care about that.
That guy is a little bit more dangerous. I think I would look for flaming arrows or something. But I don't know. But the southwest one I can take, and that northwest one I was actually very excited, because if you look at the map, I'm actually blocked by a mountain path from it. But because Savaran Guard have mountain survival and all of my mages fly, I actually could just attack their province that I can fall. So, but anyway, I thrones are great, but if I can get somebody's capital, that's going to be better strategically. So
the one thing I might dock you a couple points on is, I don't know how you would have had to have planned it a few turns ago, but if you could have had 30 or 40 flyers here that could have looked like a totally normal, non-scary number, and then capped them on the first turn of war, I think it would just be GG. I don't know how many you
Yeah.
need to take it, but it's probably about 40.
Yeah, I'd say that 40 is really dicey. The problem is that both of the commanders are reasonably fast, so they don't fall behind the troops, and have really high protection. So they've
Okay.
got a Centaur Cataphract, and I think it might be a Minotaur.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure about the second one. It might, anyway, but the point is that
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
that
if
might
you
not
bring
work.
40, it's like I'd say it's a 50-50. And if you win, you're probably going to have all of your guys route, but that might be still fine. So I
Okay.
opted for the
Yeah,
hitting
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure.
But you looked at
Dryad?
it though? Was that something you considered?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
I
okay.
did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what
it-
kind of like cap troops they get to defend in their PD, but
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, I just decided that hitting fast, in part also because the land to the east of them is actually all neutral, and I was hoping I might be able to sort of expand into it rather than their eastern neighbor. Anyway, so turn 10. No, that's right.
wait, did I?
Or is that? No. I think it's turn 11. Yeah, I think this is what you want.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Let's not spoil it and see what happened ahead of time.
So here we are. So I also they had some mages site searching, and
Oh
my
god, that
hope
feels
was to
bad.
also kill the mages. But as you'll see that Centaur Cataphract commander.
Yeah.
Anyway, they win.
I mean, I think that was actually an even gold trade. You lost.
Even gold trade.
You might have come out ahead actually. I mean, you lost 100. This guy's 50, so 230 gold. He lost 260.
So I actually have a few comments that I learned from this battle that
Yeah.
are worth noting. So one is that 10 PD was enough to make this like we hardly killed anything of their actual troops.
Right.
And the other is that all the kills were on the Arya light infantry. So I'd sort of made the mistake of getting the higher protection guys who have a sword rather than a spear.
Yeah.
I've concluded that that's basically a mistake because they just get repelled by like Indy light infantry and stuff like that. And the 14 damage is not enough to get through protection reliably. So they don't do more damage.
I think the big thing here is the charge bonus actually. So
exactly.
like the thing with Caleb, the way Caleb normally rolls is you just have like a critical mass of troops. This is like why you need to outnumber them 2-1. Because what happens is you get the first lance charge off, and with the lance, these guys are actually really scary. But if you outnumber them 2-1, after that first lance charge hits, they're either routing or you're now fighting them like 4-1. Right. And so then it's like, okay, it doesn't matter that your troops are garbage because you're fighting them 4-1 with like piercing attacks.
And potentially their stats are all garbage because they routed. And,
Right. So
but the fact that your stats are also bad is okay.
Right. So I think looking at this, like having these guys probably better, and then you're. This is a good rating part. I mean, I think it's worth noting, like you were saying, the Centaur Cataphract, like you're not going to be able to snipe this commander easily. So I think that's a good point for like going on the capital too. Like this probably wouldn't have been able to take the capital because this is only 10 PD, right? And the capital is 25. So.
And I would have loved to have had more birds, but I'm recruitment point limited. So that would be another thing where if we were Order 3, one could actually have a lot larger bird parties.
Right.
And that's sort of the army might brought. So, it's, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Oh yeah, that's another good thing to point out here is you get these guys, which are pretty cool. They're based on the priest level of your troops.
And then my goal with having the elephants on charge is so that they get the enemy before the flyers land. So that would be sort of a pulse around, and that works decently.
And those guys are. It's worth mentioning. Those guys are actually. It's a good like these guys being holy 2. They're much more likely to attract them into battle than like even a holy 1. But
I think it's something like a 50% chance or something,
right?
Or maybe 30. I don't know. It's a decent chance.
And they'll like spontaneously wire into communions and stuff. And I don't know how or why, because normally mages don't cast communion off script, but I've definitely seen them do it. And
even if they don't, they'll still spam starfires with the precision and Farcaster Bless and do some damage.
So, that's another, it wasn't something we were talking about. We were kind of skimming through the nation like, hey, these are really good mages because they'll have 2 in all these paths, and there's all these things, freezing mist, sulfur haze, frozen heart, all this stuff they can do, like evocation spam. It's like, hey, yeah, by the way, you also get like 50% chance of having another mage, and they can also spam body ethereal and other stuff too. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Next battle.
This will be a
This will be
elephant for a heavy cav.
right.
So the heavy calves have done a terrible job of getting stuck. So
Yeah,
so
they
maybe not.
really fucked that up. All right, the heavy cav have routed.
The light cav are actually dangerous because they have a light. I think they have a light land.
Yeah.
So like right, about now they could be getting some hits in.
Yeah. So this elephant got beat up pretty good. 26 hit. Well, never healing wounds. They've got decent defense too. So like if they didn't have the routing, you actually have a decent chance of not killing them in a trample.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you took this. So you were 2 for 3 with the Kalem fights. With the Pangaea fights.
Yeah.
But now you have like this interesting situation. Like on one hand, you could converge on the capital, right? So he has to be worried about that, right? Because if you get on top of the capital, the game's over for him. On the other hand, he's got enough troops that are nearby, especially if these guys can move back to the cap, which I think they probably can if they're not commanded by an indie commander. Yeah. Then he could have like a really scary army that would be able to kill you if you went on the capital.
And I think the other thing to note is so what I'm doing is I'm hitting that forest west of the capital, figuring that he's probably not going to all in on that. And even if he does, 4 elephants actually will beat like 25 dryads with that bless, just because they're so bad at doing damage that you get to trample them into oblivion. And
yeah.
Then
I put what's the holding fire here thing? The curious thing to me.
So that's I think many folks know that if you put flyers in line formation, that they will walk, and put them on an attack order, they will walk forward rather than flying, which is great because I just want to preserve the strength of those flyers.
Right.
To jump into the back, probably 10 of them will die before the elephant push everything, if he PD dumps or something like that. But I do want them there to prevent the elephants from getting too surrounded. And it turns out that hold and fire, it also will do that, but they'll stay put for 2 turns. So this is to delay them.
Oh, cool. Because I know that's interesting. I didn't know that because I knew hold and attack does not do that. Hold and attack, they'll fly.
Yeah.
Even if they're in a line formation. Interesting. That's really cool tech. Right.
And then the other thing that you can see is I'm bringing 2 mages. So that Zautar, who's been out plate searching, is going to be doing Sulfur Haze, and then another is going to be doing Lightning Bolt. And so this is just to increase the reliability if they bring their elite dryads, or it turns out that,
or if they do a PD dump, right? Because this stuff's going to be really good against the PD dump, because PD dump is always like clustered in a huge blob, where Sulfur Haze will just ruin it.
Exactly. And the elephants mostly are immune to Sulfur Haze just from their hit points. Like they don't have any fire resistance, but the birds will all die if they get into it. So the goal is for the battle to be over before those guys walking forward poison themselves. And then I went back and forth about what to do with that elephant party, because I could actually expand with it into one of those indie provinces, but I was a little bit worried about bumping Mictlan to the east, and so I instead sort of set this as a trap. So if you look, the heavy cav PD in this province, and I have the elephants on hold and attack rear. So if he tries to retake with a moderate party, he's going to get wrecked.
All right, so let's see what happens. Sorry, we got an error there. One second, let me pause while we get this sorted out. Okay, and we have sorted that out, and we're back with turn 12, which is still the very beginning of this war with Pangaea.
So this is the forest west of their capital, where we sent a big party to attack.
Oh man, look at that Farcaster Sulfur Haze, just ruining those archers.
They're already running before the elephants get there.
And you did get a little bit of poison damage on your elephants, but not too much. So lost 1 of the light infantry, and this was a decent amount of PD. This was 20 PD.
He did a 20 PD dump. And we'll actually see my scouts determine he put 20 PD in every province. So he was really expecting me to land birds on him. And
that he had 10 PD before, so he went and increased it. It's not like some people, especially if they're new to Dominions and just played single player, they'll have 20 or 30 PD in every province. And that's not what he did. This is a response to you.
Exactly. And I think this is the really nice thing about Rhaga is that you've got the threat vector of the elephants, which will squish 20 PD with no problem, and then you've got the flyers that are really mobile, and they don't know what you're going to send.
Right.
It sort of puts you in this bind. You can PD dump or you can not. And this is me pinging to see what they put on their capital.
Uh,
I think
And
it's
this is
CPD.
how much?
So see, it's 153 or maybe 45. Yeah, 45. And the strong units are those 13 cataphracts and the 22 satyr hoplites, but it's also just a ridiculous amount of chaff. And
Right.
45 harpies is also a problem because they'll land on you and muck everything up.
So what is your thinking about this? I'm interested in seeing how you want to approach this.
So that scouting report, I'm very confident from past turn scouting is inaccurate. They don't have 170 units.
Right.
It's probably about 80,
Right.
with probably about 40 or 50 of the Dryad hoplites and maybe 25 of the satyr snipers, and the rest really matter. My plan actually had been to attack this next turn, but that plan was reliant on winning a bid for Porto Boggett's mercenaries. So if you look at the army formation, I'm bringing everything to 80, so you can just look at the formation there to see what I've got. It turned out that the Hobbit mercenaries died this turn, I think.
Okay.
Atlantis fighting Lemuria or something like that. So you can see I bought all the mercs in part for a siege chaff. You can see the old age is already affecting one of my Zautar. I've got basically a ball of archers. So this is scripting that I did in case I was going to attack the capital. I didn't bother changing it because I was pretty sure that they'd still lose if they read out. But what I've got is, I think this turn I got Phoenix power. So those mages are all scripted to do Sulfur Haze spam.
Right.
Yeah. So they're going to have 5 Sulfur Haze casters if they march into that army. That guy's actually going outside searching. I decided that I don't need him.
See, what I would have done in this situation is I would have probably brought more mages. Like when I see somebody commit to this PD dump, my initial thought is like, well, this is interesting and all, but this is actually like this much chaff is actually a bit of a liability if you're doing Sulfur Haze spam or Thunderstrike spam or whatever it is. But it's going to be pretty good actually against your troops. Not like great, but pretty good. But if you had like 5 mages doing Sulfur Haze, the battle would be over almost before contact got made.
If you look at the formation, my problem is I only have about 20 real troops in position.
Right.
Like it's just the 19 heavy cavalry that we saw before, and then the Arya chaff. And I'm worried that I need to ball a lot of my troops around, because of the 50 harpies who are going to land. Who, the risk is that they land and rout my archers, and I get a sort of whole army rout if I'm on the offense.
You definitely don't want to like Sulfur Haze the harpies that are in amongst your shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would have gone on their army if I just had one more blob of, mercenary chaff, but I just didn't feel that I had what I need. So instead, I made a deal with Micklin where I'm going to take one province and they're going to take the Cap Circle province, just to make sure that Pangaea stays locked down.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take the rest of their land.
Spicy. We have an Agartha worm.
Poor Agartha. That is. Look at that Heart of Barbarians. Flag 80. It actually died to like a little dicey for the worm for a moment there. I think he's still fine, but
he's got hard. Oh no, he doesn't have hard skin. What's the bless here? Oh, it is hard skin. Okay,
it is hard skin. Yeah. Anyway, it's a lot of high damage attack. So I don't know if he started that affliction in this battle, but certainly the chest wound is gonna hurt.
Y'all don't have capital recuperation though.
No.
Bit of a thinger. Having that chest wounds for life.
Yeah.
That's a really bad one to get.
Anyway.
No, I mean that's a really bad one to get.
Yeah. If you look at my recruitment situation, so I've got another squad of heavy cavalry that I'm making there. And I'm there's also a fort coming up in that farmland, which will be able to make some more heavy cav. And then that southern fort is spamming archers because they can actually, in 2 turns of movement, reach Pangaea's capital. So my plan is to add to what I currently have. Maybe I'll get some additional mercenaries, but 8 or maybe 16 heavy cavalry plus 80, 100 archers. it won't really delay taking the fort that much because it'll mean that it's a 2-turn pop for the
Right.
for the 502 strength. Meanwhile, I'm gonna just take the rest of their land and cap it on the gold.
Yeah, like on one hand, if he were to kill your army here, this would have been like a war-winning move for him, right? Like if you had attacked this turn and like he had killed off all your stuff, you're now kind of screwed. Your neighbors are going to end their naps with you. You're going to be boned. But on the other hand, now he's like committed to a losing position in a way. Like he's made this huge PD dump, right? He needs to defend it because you could just kill a pure PD dump with probably like 6 elephants and some sulfur haze spammers, right? So he needs to defend it, but at the same time, if he's committed to defending it, then he's going to lose control of all of his land. So I hope he doesn't stay balled up in the capital because that's just you're playing to lose at that point. Like he has to raid back out, but if you're going to be moving these troops around, it's really risky.
Challenge is if he raids back out, right? Like it needs to be something that's going to beat 3 elephants, or it's sort of a waste of his time, or at least something that can, if he then PD dumps after taking it, because maybe he hits a province I'm not attacking, can beat 3 elephants because.
But I think this is an army composition issue. He has these dryad hoplites, which are just going to be garbage against. Like what he needs is a big freaking pile of cataphracts and centaurs. I mean, and minotaurs, the growth guard.
Exactly.
Right.
Because the minotaurs will wreck the elephant, even in fairly small numbers, especially if there's some PD to distract them. And also, my heavy cav get wrecked by the elephant or by minotaurs too, because protection is higher than it's like
they're doing chip damage mostly.
Like 18 damage broadswords or whatever. Whereas the minotaurs, they'll take a chip, they'll go berserk, and then they'll chop a Savaran guard in half, every few turns. So.
Right. So if you're going to raid out, you need to have things that can take ideally you have things which can win, like doom stack and attack one of these 2 provinces, right? And hope he fights you. Like that would be playing to win because then you're saying like, look, I'm going to if I can't take your armies off the board, I'm going to lose because I'm going to sit here with my cap in 4 provinces for 5 turns. So I'm going to commit to taking your armies off the board. But to do that, you need to have the right army composition where you can do it. And he doesn't. So he's a little bit fucked.
So my goal is to just consolidate my army. I'm actually building a lab there so that I can research for a few turns while I wait. And also because I'm going to construction 2 and be able to make fires in a jar to replace these gems so that I can actually not waste gems when I do my sulfur haze spam.
Yeah.
And
I swear to God, just looking at this little disease affliction is giving me anxiety. I totally understand why you wish you went on aging.
Yeah. The one thing I will mention is that this nation can, at Conjuration 5, summon Ahirani, which are a 12 Astral Pearl Water 2 mage summon.
Yeah.
And those are disease healers. So it won't be, it's a solvable problem.
Right.
But annoying for now.
All right. So let's see. We're attacking.
So this is my current turn, though I've already put in my orders so we can see what I'm going to do.
Right.
And this actually turned out to be probably my biggest mistake of this war. So that this province had a fort under construction, and it's got it's a cave province, but it's got 9,000 population and a great gold mine. So I regret knocking down that fort because I probably actually will end up building a fort here for, to sort of guard my border with Utgard at some point. But, whatever. Denying him the ability to recover probably worth more. Here you can see this is actually a lot of PD that he put in of fairly good type. That elephant surrounded by light infantry, I think, probably gets down to 7 HP. So yeah, as I said, light infantry are active that gets you. And then this is more elephant expansion. So this actually is an example of 2 elephant expansion. So when I see sort of the thing, it's possible that somebody could have run past, but we're not really that high risk. And one of the things that's nice is that the crossbows are actually pretty ineffective at killing elephants because until you get close, you're often going to miss by a square, and that's going to be a friendly fire shot rather than a
right.
And And this is my pinging their capital every turn with a scout. And the reason is that A, I want to know what he's doing with his army, but B, as we mentioned, he might have an incarnate bless. So I really want to see it if it wakes up. And so far,
the case.
no evidence of that.
We're getting pretty close to the turn where it's going to be pretty safe to assume that nothing has woken up.
Yeah, I think next turn will be fair. And I think you can actually see. I think I got the Elephant Corpse Mercenary. Did I? No, I think I hired the Elephant Corps as a counter raiding thing and to prevent them from getting it. Yeah, so I think it's in that port of mine, just south. And the idea was that if he raided into that province southeast of his capital, I'd be able to hit it with some expendable counter raiders. But I really just didn't want him to get 5 elephants to sort of throw into the mix.
I think you would just kill him if you attack this turn, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
you might not kill him as well, but I think he's fucked if you attack.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Yeah, but again, like I think I'll hit him in 2 or 3 turns, and it fits in 2 turns. So it'll only delay, because I'll be bringing extra tap with it. It'll only actually delay getting the castle by 1 turn.
Okay.
And it'll save me the. I don't know. I agree that I probably could just take it, but I also don't feel extreme rush. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna wait. You see those heavy cavalry that are marching up through my fort, and also I've got 40 crossbows I think coming that I recruited. So and then that's making archers that will still be able to make it. So there's going to be that's a scout. I'm making a flying commander, and they're like 15 archers. My capital is making archers, so everybody will be able to cinch up on top of the capital with a.
Yeah, I think
I won't even bring the elephant.
I think looking at this, well, you also could have maybe gifted flight by then, right? Maybe.
Yeah, that actually.
Gifted flight will be really nice to have when you're storming.
Exactly. Yeah, but he'll have like 30 free stater snipers on the wall, and that's actually one of the big risks is that they kill a lot of stuff. Just because of that. My current plan for that is you can see that I've got Obscuro and 1 other air mage of my own,
right?
And I think I'll just have them spam air elementals to do it. So I don't think I even need gift of flight, and I can afford the 6 air gems or whatever that it'll take. But if you notice, currently this turn none of my elephants are next to their capital. So I like this turn is sort of it's probably not an ideal time. The turn after probably I'd win, but if I wait 1 more turn, then I get to add like 100 troops to what I'm bringing.
Yeah,
that's my current.
So some of my just like random thoughts on this. One is like, this is a predictable move to know that you'd be moving stuff here. So he's not a super experienced player, but like if you're playing against an experienced player, they would know you would move here with these elephants, and then they would send something to counter it. So which for him would have to be like pretty close to an all-in.
Yeah, and if you look, that's why I'm bringing the elephant core there. So if he counters that, he's going to be hitting probably a lot more elephants than he might expect. And worst case, I lose an 80 gold mercenary and 200 gold worth of troops. Like it's not actually that high.
Oh, that's handled. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think you're in a rush. I mean, I think the diplomacy is what would impact like how, because the thing is like while he still has an army, it would be more easy for him to attract people to your cause, but not as easy as if he were to kill your army. So like if you fail to like take his cap or something, it'd be really easy for him to like attract one of your neighbors to end their nap with you. Right now, as it stands, you've got a big army. If he attracts somebody to his cause, the person he's attracting would know that like you would just potentially offer at worst case to like peace out with Pangaea and just shift to fighting them. So
honestly, I think that I would not do that. I would just kill Pangaea, and then the enemy would find that my
word of caution there. Oh. You don't want to win too many wars too early. Like
I don't know, but I think you kill Pangaea, right? And you set up some traps, defensive traps, and you make peace with them after you force them out, right? If you don't want to win, but you can.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a good player, that can be pretty expensive. Like, wars are expensive. So,
Absolutely.
But anyway, the broader point is just that, like, because you're still in like a dominant position in this war, and it's pretty clear Pangaea would accept peace terms, because why wouldn't they, right? It doesn't really make sense for somebody to come in and try to like save Pangaea yet, unless they really just want to like fight you like full force. So
once in mind, it's still like turn 13. So
Right.
a lot of folks might not be fully organized. I've committed most of my mage corps. I've got 7 mages plus a mercenary mage. And committed to that fight. But
right.
because they're all flying, like I could make it to the Gath border. This turn. I can make it to the Bogarus border with that whole stack of mages this turn. So it's with a lot of nations sending 6 mages on an offensive operation on turn 13. You're really
Right.
emptied out the homelands.
Right.
But with this one, you've emptied out the homelands, but they can be back there in a jiffy.
Yeah. So this is really cool. I feel like we're going to get to see some cool stuff in this first battle, and the first fort battle. Whenever you choose to pull the trigger, we're going to get to see, sulfur haze. We might get to see some elementals, and then shortly thereafter, we're going to see some cool enchantment shenanigans with like gift of flight elephants and flaming arrows and a bunch of other really cool shit. So, looking forward to the next episode, which will probably be in a week from now when you and I talk again, and seeing how all this plays out.
Sounds like a plan. This has been fun.
Yeah. So thanks a ton for sharing this with me, and then with the YouTube community that's going to watch this. And thank you to all the viewers who have tuned in. And we'll see you next time.
Folks.